Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Mike here, or Personal Growth Now, bringing us another video. Now, in this video, we're talking about angels versus demons. Now, this is a hidden Bible teaching, or several hidden Bible teachings, that reveals the truth that differentiates the good spirits from the evil spirits. And an evil spirit can enter any person whom allows it, and likewise we can choose for good spirits to enter us as well if we completely open ourselves up to that possibility. So it's really whatever we allow our hearts to become infused with. And this is why in Matthew 12 it actually states that a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. So this really does have to do with what we allow into our lives, and we allow certain entities to take us over. You know, I often give this example, and I've commented on other videos, that in Star Wars Episode 3, which is one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars, go ahead and check that one out if you are unfamiliar with it. Anakin Skywalker actually turns into Darth Vader, and the Darth Vader was an actual evil entity. It was a spirit that actually entered Anakin, but an evil spirit cannot enter a person without its permission. So Anakin actually gave himself over to those evil spirits once he found out some factual information about Obi-Wan and what he was doing with Anakin's so-called wife. And there were many disgusting truths that were revealed to Anakin, and Anakin, instead of choosing to see the situation possibly or perhaps in a positive light, he gave himself over to the demonic activity, and he was possessed by the spirit, and that's when he began on a murder rampage. That's when he began taking similar actions against his once friends and allies. So before we jump into the next few verses that we're going to be going over in Scripture that differentiates the good spirits versus the wicked or evil spirits, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like the video. And now and throughout the video, go ahead and leave a comment so that we can begin positive discussion and contrasting discussion down in the comment section, as I always appreciate you guys and the engagement in the comment section. Lastly, I always say that hit that bell icon so that we get future updates on videos. So we're talking about good spirits versus evil spirits. Now, we're going to be focusing on the contrast between the two, but primarily we're going to be focusing on the evil spirit in order to better understand what exactly is happening here. So the first scripture verse that we're referencing is actually found in Matthew 12, and beginning in verse 33, it says, "Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good. Make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruits. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned." So in verse 37 there, where it talks about the judgment and about being condemned, I do believe that is the full unequivocal manifestation of the works themselves. I do believe that those thorns of an evil person cause them to suffer greatly, and the judgment is made here on earth in the form of attracting back to you those same ugly flavors of sin. So basically, those who go unpunished here on earth will actually suffer in the spiritual realm for what they have done. So if that justice has not been made or mended for what they have done, that evil thorn that they have done through those wicked actions, those will absolutely be met with God's wrath. Moving on to the next Bible verse is 1 John 3, and we are talking about the work of the devil. Now, beginning in verse 7, it says, "Dear children, do not let anyone lead you astray. The one who does what is sinful is of the devil, because the devil has been sinning from the beginning. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the devil's work. No one who is born of God will continue to sin, because God's seed remains in them. They cannot go on sinning, because they have been born of God. This is how we know who the children of God are and who the children of the devil are. Anyone who does not do what is right is not God's child, nor is anyone who does not love their brother or sister." Now, I did mean to mention one extra thing back in Matthew 12, but it also appeals to all these verses that we're talking about. Now, whenever we're talking about a righteous spirit, what are we talking about? Well, the fruit of the Spirit includes love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, those are some of the fruits of the Spirit, and what I refer to as the thorns of the Spirit, or the thorns of the devil, or the sins, are pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. And of course, lying is in there as well. So there are many other sins, but we are told that these are the thorns of the flesh, the thorns of the Spirit, that keep us in bondage to the devil. Now, carrying on, the next Bible verse is found in John 8. Beginning in verse 42, Jesus said to them, "If God were your Father, you would love me, for I have come here from God." Because we noticed how many people actually were against Jesus, because Jesus had much resistance. He was met with so much hate, and the people whom did not accept Jesus and did not accept his teachings were actually children of the devil. Now it goes on to say, "I have not come on my own. God sent me." Verse 43, "Why is my language not clear to you? Because you are unable to hear what I say. You belong to your father the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies." So we are told here throughout these verses of what the devil actually is. Continuing on, and in verse 45, "Yet because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Can any of you prove me guilty of sin? If I am telling the truth, why don't you believe me? Whoever belongs to God hears what God says. The reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God." So I do want to take a mild break before we move on to the last couple scripture verses, where we're sort of going through good spirits and evil spirits. I want us all to understand that the devil is prowling around in our thought life. See, it's a spiritual warfare, and the devil likes to not only work through people and their wicked actions, but the devil's actually spiritual, and these are demonic entities that want inside of us, and the only thing that can ward them off is the light of Jesus Christ. Now, I do believe that as we begin to speak the word of the Lord and then also live by the word of the Lord and the righteousness and the fruits of the Spirit, we do begin practicing a turning away from sin. In Matthew 16, verse 21, we actually find out that the devil was looking to enter Peter, and that temporarily it did enter Peter. And it says, "From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things. And then Peter took him aside and began rebuking him, saying, 'Never, Lord,' he said, 'this shall never happen to you.' And Jesus turned and said to Peter, 'Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns.'" And to make another thing evident, that the works of the flesh equate to sin, and then the works of the righteous spirit, or the fruits of the Spirit, equate to righteousness. And furthermore, in Matthew 4, we're actually going through the temptations that the devil was trying to enter Jesus, even Jesus himself. And he was tempting Jesus, saying, throw yourself down, he will command his angels concerning you, they will lift you up. And we find out throughout Matthew 4 that Jesus was tempted 3 times, and then after he turned away from that temptation of sin, that's why in the Father's prayer it actually says, lead us not into temptation, because everybody who is living on earth is actually subject to the sins. You see, living here on earth can be very deceptive as well. In 2 Corinthians 11, it says, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, and that explains the father of lies. So it is very much a wolf in sheep's clothing. Satan loves to actually appear as a wolf in sheep's clothing, and it also says that Satan's servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. So they pretend, and there's this deep hypocrisy. So in essence, we must guard our hearts and be able to tell these spirits apart, whether they are coming from a certain person who is trying to deceive us into a toxic situation by appearing as a being of light, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Or it could also be similar to Peter and Jesus and everybody here living on earth. It could just be a thought. It could be a passing thought in our minds that wants us to grab on and believe those things as well. So truth be told, this is really a spiritual battle happening both in our own personal lives and as a collective. I am really thinking about all of you, and I'm hoping that we can do this together and really turn towards the light of Christ, which is made perfect in love. We must spread the good vibes and not deceive anybody and be as honest as possible. And when tempted, we need to begin feeding our minds positivity. We need to begin listening to music and watching certain movies that are conducive to the spirits of the fruit as opposed to the thorns. So keep in mind all these things. I know this was a bit sporadic. This was a bit of a different video, but I really like talking about it. Join us in the next video. Hit the bell icon for future updates, and I'll see you later, guys.